Hi, I'm Ethan. Originally from Philadelphia, but my yoga journey really began in earnest in New York City. It started from an old injury and surgery, and so I was looking for a place to just start to remedy my back issues. And so I found a local studio in my neighborhood in Brooklyn and quickly became hooked. I don't know if addiction is the right word, but I was there several times a week and just wanted to dive even deeper, and that led me to getting my first teacher training.
How did your journey lead you to become a yoga teacher, specifically specializing in yin and katona yoga?
So right after I did my first 200-hour teacher training in Brooklyn, it was sort of a general vinyasa style training, but we did have a lot of different modules from other uh, areas of yoga, different philosophies, some that were more anatomy focused. And one of my original teachers who ran that training, she fell hard into the Katona yoga world. And so she started to invite a lot of us new teachers to come take a class and try this new thing out that she was immersing herself in. And the very first class we went to, I remember it really clearly. It was so different from everything I was taking at the time and what I had done with her. And particularly in Katona Yoga, they will orient everyone in the room to sit in a circle or you're all facing each other. So you can't hide. There's no back row. And so she, at one point, the teacher, called everyone out and, pointed out what everyone was doing at a certain point. And just having that spotlight on me was terrifying. So I stayed away for 6 months. But there was something about the practice that really got its hooks in me. And so I made my way back there and have been hooked ever since.
What experiences or teachings from your early yoga practice have had a lasting impact on your teaching style?
I would say probably the thing at the very beginning during our teacher training 200 hour that's really stuck with me was all about the voice. It's kind of an underrated thing maybe you don't think about when until you start teaching or getting to that process of learning to teach. But I was certainly guilty of kind of mimicking or trying on how my teachers taught and the cadence of their voice and trying to borrow things from other people I had heard to sound like a yoga teacher. But what I was quickly invited to try was just using my own voice and getting more comfortable. We even had an exercise at the very beginning where we would record ourselves, practice teaching, and then we had to listen to our voice on repeat at our own leisure. And just hearing my own voice and the way I was talking, it hits very different than when you're just kind of in the flow of things. And I think it's really powerful when you start to find your own voice, which partly happens just on putting in the hours and the practice and the repetition. But I think students really can feel when you're being authentically you, because they want to come to experience yoga from me, from someone else, from every specific yoga teacher, because we all bring our own personalities and our own voices to it. So really starting to find my voice and get more comfortable in whatever that sounds like and where that comes from was really, really impactful early on.
You mentioned being influenced by New York. What did your time there show you, both personally and professionally?
I think the two are definitely intertwined. For anyone that's spent any amount of time in New York City knows it's a very fast-paced environment, very go, go, go. No matter what your lane is, whether you're in yoga or finance or, pick something, everything's happening in New York City. It's the city that never sleeps. And so it's very easy to get into that rhythm and not sleep and not take care of yourself. And so for a long time, both in my early teaching years and just my, near decade of living in New York City, it was a lot of these boom and bust cycles. Go, 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 crash. Go, 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 crash. And it took me a little while to really appreciate the nuance and what I could do differently to step out of that cycle and really start to manage my energy better and take care of myself better for the long run and the long haul, which I think is one thing that yoga can offer in so many different ways, is how to better take care of ourselves and give us more awareness about how we're doing that or maybe not doing that so well.
Can you discuss any mentors of these yoga styles?
Yeah, I mean, probably too many impactful yoga teachers to highlight in this moment. I'm afraid I'd probably leave a few out, but two that really stand out, Naveen Mishan, who founded Katona Yoga, one of those trailblazing thinkers and practitioners out there who was in New York City at a point in time where she could grab and take from so many different influential early yoga teachers and then put together this practice wholly through her own lens, her own imagination, and create something wholly new. And then one of her early collaborators, Abby Galvin, who I've probably had the pleasure of studying with the most over the years, just getting to see how the two of them approach Katona Yoga, how it's an ever-evolving practice. I think I've heard them call it an open source type of yoga. So it's constantly evolving. There's always more to learn. And I always try and take advantage of as much time as I can sitting with them in person or online while they're still offering their gifts of teaching.
Outside of yoga, what are some of your passions or interests that inform your approach to teaching?
Well, I'm a big baseball fan, but I don't know how much that's impacted my yoga. Probably the one, though, that has influenced me the most in my teaching has been studying shamanism. I've had a few really influential teachers and mentors working in that world. And one thing that you really learn in a more indigenous shamanic culture is how to read energy, not only your own energy, but the energy of others. How to create a physical container, especially when you're holding space. And when you're teaching a yoga class, you're holding space for everyone who shows up there that day. And it's always a different group of students, different levels of expertise. And even if it's the same students each and every time, they're coming to the practice that day differently. So it's upon me and all teachers really to really tune into those nuances and read the room. So I can really owe a lot of that training to shamanism.
Can you explain the key principles and philosophies that define Yin and Katona Yoga?
Yeah, the thing that both Yin and Katona Yoga both share is a influence and derivation from traditional Chinese medicine and five element theory. And there's so much in there beyond what I've studied in, but the basic framework of Chinese medicine, it is a really holistic system that asks us to look at ourselves as a part of a whole. So both all of our individual parts and then ourselves as human beings as a part of the whole ecosystem of which we are part of. And really emphasizing that we're not separate from nature, despite what some people may say out there, but we are an integral, interdependent part of nature. And the more we understand how those cycles run, both externally outside of ourselves, as well as internally inside of ourselves, the more happy, healthy, and whole our lives will be.
What are the primary benefits that practitioners can expect from practicing Yin and Katona Yoga regularly?
Part of the reason why I've stuck with both of these practices for so long is they just make me feel better. I feel better in my body physically. When I started practicing, I was mostly going to hot vinyasa classes, getting into a flow, going for the sweat, feeling the physical workout, enjoying that really high endorphin rush. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I noticed for myself a short-term benefit, and then maybe the next day or a few days later, I may have pushed myself a little too far, or being in a hot room enabled me to go a little further than I might should have listened to. And so both Yin and Katona, in getting more regular in those practices, my body felt better, my joints felt better. And when my physical body is doing well and taking care of me, it just supports my mental health and my energy so much better too. So I've definitely heard feedback and similar comments from students who've been practicing Yin and Katona regularly that, old nagging injuries or, things that you just think that, oh, this is a part of my life and a part of my body that I'll just have to manage and deal with. There's freedom outside of that, I think, when you're really consistent with both of these styles.
How do you tailor your classes to accommodate students of varying
Yeah, so, coming from my shamanic training, I really try and be really present to who's showing up for each class. And it's always different. If it's a room full of mostly beginners or people who are newer to the practice, I'm definitely going to tailor it more towards the foundations or things that are going to be more accessible for folks. But also want to be cognizant of everyone in the room too. So if I have a few of my regulars or people who are, maybe on a more intermediate or advanced level with their own practice, trying to spend time offering things to modify both down or up, depending on where everyone is in their practice, so that there's really something for everyone. I love that Katonah has both sort of the fluency practice, a little bit more vigorous, a little bit more demanding and taxing on the physical body. And then there's also the restorative side of things, which is more prop heavy, a little bit more supported. Both are really impactful, both just as important, but I can use maybe one or the other a little bit more depending on who's showing up that day.
What role do props and adjustments play in your classes?
So I am a self-identified propaholic. We don't have meetings yet, but I love props. And this was not always the case as a brand new yoga student. Maybe this was because I was a guy and I was nervous about looking like I didn't know what I was doing or like I needed help. I saw people voluntarily using props and I was like, oh, that's kind of like a crutch or a way that they need support. So I was trying to force myself to not use props to begin with. Now I've come full 180 around. I think props are a really great way to enhance your practice. They can inform your body and your practice in ways that you might not necessarily get the same information if it's just you and your mat. And so, I highly encourage all my students, get a couple blocks, a strap, work with some blankets. Almost anything can be a yoga prop when your goal is to support yourself. And, I like to think of it like scaffolding on a building. When you're doing those repairs on the facade, the intention is not to have the scaffolding there in perpetuity. Even if you're in New York City and you might see that scaffolding there for a few years, the metaphor holds. The scaffolding comes down and then you get to see the repair work fresh and new. So, it can be a support, it can be something that you can lean on, but the goal isn't to be lying on blocks all day long, but to inform your practice in a different way.
What do you find most rewarding about teaching your classes?
I think the most rewarding thing I get is getting to share all the amazing practices and tools that I've been able to glean and learn from other teachers and share them with others. Just getting to see people's reactions, have their experiences be very similar to mine, coming out of class, especially if someone's been dealing with an old injury that they haven't been able to work through yet, or even just to inspire people to try something new, something fresh to reinvigorate their yoga practice. It's always really exciting to see that land so much on students.
What advice would you give to someone who is new to your practice and considering trying a class?
I would say just come with an open mind. It is definitely a little bit different than a lot of the yoga out there right now. Even though it does derive from hatha and some very familiar pillars of yoga, it's kind of repurposed and applied in maybe a different way. So if you're open to new experiences, there'll be a lot that you can sink your teeth into and really run with.
Can you tell us a bit about your online offerings for Village Yoga Sedona and who that class is for?
Yeah, I'm really excited that we're growing our online offerings for students. All the things that are up there right now and we'll be adding on to over time. It's basically going to be an extension of the classes that I offer right now. So both from a Yin influence background and from a Katonah Yoga influence background. So some classes will be incorporating props, others you can do without. Also want to offer different types of classes for the amount of time that people have, because the reason if you can't come to a class, you may not even have a full hour in your day to practice. So there'll be shorter little nuggets available for those moments where you might only have a 15-minute break in the middle of the day to roll out your mat and get into your body.
For your online offerings, is this for a specific demographic or is it for everyone?
There'll be something for everybody. So whether you're a beginner, never taken my class, you come all the time, but you're out of town for a month, There'll be a lot of different styles and different lengths of time to really meet yourself where you are. So come one, come all.
Do you have any advice to share new guys who want to join yoga and haven't practiced before?
Great question. I love seeing more men in yoga overall. When I was starting to practice, this was like 12, 13 years ago, it was more common that I was like one of two or maybe the only guy sometimes. So I love that more men are coming to the practice. And one thing I'll offer to any potential male students out there who are thinking about practicing, either coming to class or coming to access any of the online classes, flexibility is not a prerequisite to come to yoga or this style of yoga in particular. It can be a byproduct, but it can meet you where you are. So if you feel a little stiff or inflexible, great. This will really meet you where you are and help you along the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.